Hey y'all, and welcome back to another video of My Creative Life with Kel Sweetie, where we read books, we make art, and during a certain time of year, we start Halloween decor decorating. Today, we are going to be covering how I crafted and painted these busts. This is a part of a bigger series, a Halloween crafting series that I've been doing on my channel. If you've not checked out the last 3 videos, you should go check those out. I make a marquee sign for like a vintage marquee theater sign from scratch. I've repainted figures. I've made fake cookies and fake oversized popcorn. If any of those seem interesting to you, go check them out at my older videos, but check them out after this video because today, surprisingly enough, these are my favorite crafts because last year these were my favorite crafts when I took the Joann Halloween busts and painted them, and they looked like something out of like a vintage drugstore or costume shop or something. I don't know what it is, but like these turned out so great this year, and they're different from my ones last year, and I think that was like informed from like me having my 90s theme this year for my top of my bookcase as opposed to the more vintage Halloween trick-or-treating vibe that I was going for above my bookcase last year. So let's get into the intro so I can talk more about these and show you how I painted them because they just look so great. And I have this black light over here. I can't wait to show y'all how this one looks under the black light. These are my favorite crafts. I feel like I will be doing every single year. I hope Joann's keeps on releasing ones like this. And if they don't, I may have to switch to just painting my own on those heads they have all year. I'm thinking I may have to do that anyways because they refuse to put out a Wolfman, a Wolfman version of these heads. But I love how these turned out. Last year, my favorite thing that I created were the Frankenstein and bride heads that I painted. They turned out so, I still love them so much. And this year, I looked around and I found this one on Etsy. They're reselling it this year as well, I believe. So you can check them out at Joann's. When I got these, they were on sale for $8. So they might even be further on sale now because it's further in the season. But I got this zombie head type of thing from a seller on Etsy who was selling it. And then this is a new one that they released. And it's supposed to be a witch. When I saw this, it did not give witch to me. It wasn't cackling. There was nothing that really sold it to me that it was a witch. Instead, it looked more like with the cracks in it and everything that it was a vampire, that they were a vampire. They were also kind of give non-binary, which I liked. And from the facial structure, I personally very much don't like the big-nosed witches and everything. So I do like that they kind of went in a more subtle idea for that, but it was giving more of a vampire look, so I added some fangs. So I did, and I feel like it definitely reads more vampire than witch for me, even if I'd gone in a more witch direction. There's nothing really that sells that this is a witch for me, but there you go. I loved painting these, and I can't wait to show y'all how I went about them. So let's get into the video of me painting these, and then come back and do an outro to talk about what I plan to do with these. We are now going to start arguably one of my favorite crafts of the Halloween season now, and that is just painting these styrofoam busts from Joann. I love this. If Joann's doesn't make more versions of these busts, I will find other versions in other places. I might make my own. I don't know. But I love this because it's so simple, but the payoff is so much fun. Right here, you see me putting down that first layer of blue paint. And this is I'm going to repeat myself. If you saw my repaint video and you saw my fake cookie video with these craft paints, I'm going to repeat myself. Say it with me now. layers. Layers, layers, layers are really what is going to be your friend with craft paint every single time. Right here, I'm putting literally, I watered down that paint and I spread it everywhere. I'm laying a base. This right here is just a blue with some off-white mixed into it, and I laid a base of a dark blue for the hair, that red for the pupils, for the lips. All of this was just laying base. Now, after you've laid your base, this is important, shadows and highlights. All you need are really 3 main colors. You want your base to make your shadow, add a darker color, and don't add black. Black is going to wash out your colors. Add a purple, add a dark red. I don't know, try what a dark green would even look like, but you don't want to use a black because it's going to wash out your color and it's not going to be as vibrant. As for your highlight, take that base color that you had and add an off-white or a lighter color to it. White, I mean, it washes out, but it's not as bad as black. You want to try for maybe using a lighter color if you can't use a white. But that is it. I cannot simplify it any further. You want to put those shadows of that dark paint in places where shadows would be. So on either side of the nose, because the nose juts out from the face. I wanted eye bags, so I put in eye bags. I wanted gaunt cheeks, so I put that in the place where you would carve out your cheeks and everything. I put it under the lip a little bit because you have that little divot that happens before you get to your chin. The highlight is going to go on the bridge of that nose. On all the places, I mean, touch your face. Touch your face and what you feel is shooting outward. Let's put some highlight there. And places where it goes inward naturally, okay, then we need to match that on our bust. Right here, I'm putting in highlight underneath the eye just to accentuate the fact that these are very deep eye bags. They have never slept a day in their life because they're the undead. They do not sleep. That is what I'm accentuating right here. And if you notice, I even went in with a darker shadow at one point over top of my main shadow. So you can always do that. You know, you can always just add a darker color to your original shadow and just make that shadow smaller over top of it. Same thing with the highlight. Add a little bit more white or a lighter color to it and add it over top of it. And next thing you know, you've built up layers and it's naturally curving. Right here, I go for a more painterly look, so I didn't really do that. But that's the point. Right here, I also used that whipped clay that I used from my cookies. I used for these fangs. I just put those in real quick. I could have painted them in, but I wanted some dimension. And I just wanted to show you guys quickly how the zombie started off. It started off extremely pink, far too pink, way too pink. But I am happy that it started off this way because when I put the black light on it, you can actually see that fluorescent pink shine through the purple that I'm going to wash over it, which is another point. If you feel like you've gotten too light or too dark with your painting, add some water to your paint in a darker color or a lighter color, depending on what you're trying to do, and wash that over top of what you've already painted. Don't worry, it's going to look like, oh, it's dimension. I'm going to show you in just a moment, but it was far too pink, and I took this purple that I'm putting down. This is too thick. I realized it was too thick. I watered it down, and I put it over top that pink, and look where we are now. It's very painterly. Right in the middle of their eye, all I did was take a fluorescent pink wash and put it right in a dot, and it looked amazing. You enjoyed that. I know that it seems pretty straightforward as far as painting these, but I think people kind of see like what I kind of do as far as painting and making these busts and how to make them look like really, really cool. And it's easier than you think. It's just putting a base coat down and then choosing your highlights and your shadows and then just kind of going from there. I think the more stripy and painterly that you go in, the more vintage it kind of looks, as opposed to something more realistic, which I personally love the more illustrated, painted look. These turned out just, I was afraid that I got lucky last year with my other ones. That like, oh, it was a fluke. You know, sometimes you create something, you go, oh, I don't know what I was on that day. But the creative juices were definitely flowing that day. And so that's why they turned out that good. I was worried when I picked these up that they weren't going to turn out as good as they did last year. It was a big concern of mine. But honestly, they turned out just as good as last year. Arguably even better in some ways, because I really knew what I was going for this year because of what had happened from the ones that I had already done. I love that I had some of that leftover whipped clay, and I'm glad that I used them for the fangs. I think that if I would have had that foam clay that I keep on talking about, I talked about this in my fake cookies video, if I would have had those, I would have probably sculpted them even larger instead of them being very, very subtle, and really had them come up off of here, and it would have worked even better because this is styrofoam and you would have seen it. But I'm happy that I even went along and did that instead of just painting them in, because it added just a little bit of dimension. I'm glad at how subtle it is. I'm glad that I went with like a blue, a very like vibrant kind of blue for this one. And I knew from the beginning I really wanted blue and purple. Like, I didn't want another green one because I already had one green one. I really wanted them to all kind of look different and stand alone. So I knew I didn't want a green. And I'm glad that I went with a purple look for this. It's something different, but I think that it really, really works for it. And I'm really glad that I used some of that fluorescent pink in the beginning, even though it was far too pink in the beginning, and I had to really start to tone it down with adding some purple back into it. That pink still shines underneath it, and I'm going to kind of mess up my set here, but it shines. Let me see if I can pick it up. I'm probably going to show it in a close-up, but that fluorescent pink is shining slightly underneath the violet, and it kind of goes with just like the vibrancy of the eyes from like the vibrant fluorescent pink wash that I used for these. But I'm very happy with how this one turned out. I think that I was concerned with the direction it was moving in. The teeth kind of started to kind of get me because I didn't really know how I wanted to go about it. I didn't want something really grotesque, but something fun, and I feel like that's what I ended up getting. So just too happy about how these turned out. I'm excited to see what happens next year, and if they release any more of these next year, or if I'm gonna have to try and make my own Wolfman, or they have a skeleton one, a skull, and it just doesn't feel very special, but maybe that's because I haven't thought outside the box with what it could be. So we'll see, have to see next year. Yeah, definitely next year on what I end up doing, because these really are so much fun to do every year. I may even start doing them just because, I don't know. It's just fun to do these. It's just fun to see like what the end result ends up being. And it feels very low effort for like a high reward. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, y'all. Again, today's wasn't necessarily a huge crafting video, but again, low impact, high reward. The next two that will be coming out, and you will see me in a different outfit because we're still waiting on a lot of drying and I need to still gather things for it. That's fine. I wanted them done before I decorated, but 2 days is just not enough. Are my vintage Halloween pumpkin pail, which I have made from paper mache and some celluclay. It's turning out better than I thought as far as like how hard it was to make it. That's been very easy. I do have some tips already though. So if you want to check that out and you want to know how to make your own vintage pail that seems like vintage accurate, then make sure that you're subscribed, because that will be our next video. And after that, I will be making my besom broom. my witch broom that is gonna go in my witch kitchen. This has been harder than I thought it would be, more so in gathering what's necessary to make it, rather than actually, well, I haven't started making it yet because we're still gathering things, but from what I've been told and from what I've seen, making it's not going to be really the hard part. Let's hope that I didn't just jinx myself. But gathering what's necessary for it, especially the handle, is what's been rough. Mainly because I basically am going to have to cut down some sort of like branch outside, because you can't just buy a branch. You can't just buy a branch, and then I'm gonna have to figure out how to sanitize it so that there's not a bunch of bugs still in it, because I'm bringing it indoors and we don't want to bring bugs indoors. There's a whole lot of stuff that before you even get to make the thing that's become a little bit difficult, but that's going to be our last video for this crafting series. Like I said before, please go check out the ones before this. There are 3 other ones. Yes, 3 others before this, and there's going to be 2 others after, so we're basically kind of sitting in the middle. But I hope that you enjoyed today's video. We have an emoji question game that we do at the end of these videos. So for today's, since it seems on brand, let me know, what is the scariest monster to you? For me, I can't do clowns. I don't do clowns, and I don't do the new age zombies. Not like Night of the Living Dead type of thing, but like Zombieland, 28 Days Later, you need your cardio or else you're dying type of zombies. Don't do either one of those. They both freak me out entirely. So I would love to know everybody else's. Am I alone in that? Does that also freak you out? Because I was fine as far as zombies were concerned until I saw Zombieland, and then I had nightmares for a week. Which, it's supposed to be a comedy. I don't know how it's a comedy, because that could happen. That could absolutely happen. Thank you for watching. Please stick around for the next crafting videos that I have. Like I said, subscribe down below, because we have 2 more coming up, and those are some big ones. So, hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye!